through Seif Zayin or Chet, whatever it is, but tomorrow they're off, so we're gonna catch up tomorrow with Dirshu. Okay, yalla.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Bruchim Abayim, welcome everyone. We are continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim Hilchot Shabbat. We're studying Siman Nun-tet, which speaks about some of the details of Hilchot Hatmana on Shabbat. Now, we've already studied the halachot of Hatmana. This is really a merge between Hilchot Hatmana and Hilchot Muktzeh, believe it or not, which we're going to really spend a lot of time on it in Siman Shin Chet, Shin Tet, Shin Yud, and Shin Aleph, which haven't gotten there yet. But what happens if you used Muktzeh items for doing Hatmana? Shulchan Aruch says, Mochin shetaman bahem derech mikre. Let's imagine you have different soft items that are usually meant for business. You know, back in the day, they would use these things, smargefen, utelishesemirach. They would use them for expensive garments, and this would be, of course, standing not for heating up or using it for hatmana, not heating up, but keeping insulation of food. That would be like a waste of resources, because these things could be made to expensive garments and sell for top dollar. So a person would keep them for business only. So therefore, they are considered muktzeh machamat chisaron kis. This is something that is called an item that is going to be used for Isur, and it is something expensive that you are very careful to keep them intact. So therefore you cannot carry them on Shabbat. Now if you had nothing else and you use them for Hatmana, for insulation of your pot on Shabbat, now your pot is completely covered with this. You can't just push them away from the pot, this soft items, because they're muktzeh. You can't touch them. You can't move. You could touch muktzeh. You cannot move it. So how are you going to get your pot out of this? You buried it inside these items. How are you going to get it out? So therefore it says derech mikre. It happened to be that you use these expensive items to do hatmana. Because as we will see, the Mishna Berura says if you dedicate these things forever to be using them for insulation of pot on Shabbat, then it's mutar. But regularly speaking, this is my business item. I'm going to take it after Shabbat and use it to make garments and sell them. So therefore, if as a one-time thing, I'm using it for insulation, asur letalteran, they're muktzeh, you cannot move them. You shake off the lid of the pot and they fall off by themselves. Now, this is considered tiltul min hatzad. You're doing it through another item, and that tiltul min hatzad is mutar. Without getting into the details of this, it would be permissible. A little bit of the pot, the top, the handle is exposed. So you take the handle, you shake them off, and then you take the lid off, and that would be fine. Because this is considered what we call tiltul min hatzad, and that would be mutar. Says the Shulchan Aruch, but if you specified and dedicated these items, even though that they could be used for business, for making garments and so on, but you don't want to do it, you want every week to use them as insulation for the pot, then it's mutar completely to touch them because they're no longer muktzeh. But you have to dedicate them for this purpose, not just for one Shabbat, but forever. Then mutar letaltera. Now the Mishna Berura writes here that you don't have to necessarily do the dedication as a l'shem yichud. You don't have to have like an official ceremonial thing to say, oh, I'm going to dedicate it. You could think about it. Say, this pile of goods, whether it is smargefen or silk, whatever it may be, I am dedicating it for insulation of the pot on Shabbat. If you think about that and now you make the decision, your mind is clear that you're going to be using it every week for that, then it's mutar to move them. They're no longer muktzeh. Avalim taman begizet semer. Now, you have items that are not as expensive. For instance, gizeh semer, the shearing the wool of animal. So you have this tzemer, the animal wool, that are not just like some remnants that you found from in between the thorns, but it's actually what you sheared off of your flock. So these also are standing for business. People use garments from semer, from wool as well, but it is less expensive, it's less sensitive item, so therefore people are not that careful with it. If you use it once, that already is equivalent of deciding in your mind that this is no longer muktzeh. I want to use it for hatmana, for insulation. So therefore, even though that you didn't decide in your mind that I'm going to be doing this, you didn't decide in your mind that this forever is going to be an item used for insulation on Shabbat, but with one time putting it there without any mindset going forward, it already is mutar. So therefore, if you used it as hatmana, it must have been that you used it once for this, and you took it out of the realm of business material, and that would be mutar already. Shabbat morning you could just push them away with your hands, and that would be fine. Says the Shulchan Aruch. Even though that you did not specify them for this usage to be used forever, mutar letaltelan. The very fact that you used it once is good enough because you showed that this is no longer for business for this week, and because they're not sensitive, expensive items that people are very careful with, that one-time usage for insulation is sufficient. But that's regular bundles of wool that are not specified and dedicated already for business. But imagine if you sheared your flock and you straightened this wool, you bundled it, and you put it in your storage for business, then already is more for business than regular wool that you just sheared. This is already categorized in your storage for business, then it becomes more important. It's more muktzeh, so to speak, and in that case it will become equivalent of the tzmar gefen and the first category that we discussed in the Gemara and the Shulchan Aruch. It would need yichud, it would need a specification that's going to be forever. So it says the Shulchan Aruch, let's just finish this up here. If you did actually do hatmana, if you did use them for insulation after having put it in your business category, in your storage for business, then same thing you do as the first case in Shulchan Aruch. You shake off the lid and they fall by themselves, which would be tiltul minatzat, the same thing. Dehainu lomar shenotel kisuya kederai, that you take the lid of the pot, sheyesh torat keli alea, that it has the name of a kli, you could carry it. Ve'afal pi shem alea, even though that this gizeh semer, the cut wool is on it, lo ichpat lan, we don't care about that. You could still take the lid off and shake these wools off of the lid, because the lo nasid basis lahin. Now the Shulchan Aruch brings in a very important point in the very last 4 words of this Seif. Says they are not basis. Now let me explain this in just a short minute. Usually when you place a muktzeh on a base, the base, if you're the owner and you did it deliberately, the base itself becomes muktzeh. If you place your phone into a drawer before Shabbat, now that drawer becomes muktzeh. You can't open the drawer unless there are more important items of heter also in the drawer. If you place an item of muktzeh on something mindfully, and you're the owner, it becomes muktzeh, the base. So how in the world is it that the lid itself doesn't become muktzeh as a basis? So the Mishna Berura explains the reason it doesn't become muktzeh is very simple. Because normally, basis, the base, becomes muktzeh because it is serving the muktzeh. The drawer in the example we gave is serving the phone, right? It's hosting it, it's basing it. But over here, what is serving what? It's exactly the opposite. The tzemer is serving the lid. The tzemer, the items that you're using for insulation, is the insulation of the pot. It is serving the pot. So therefore, the whole concept of basis does not apply, even though that technically in the picture they're sitting on it, but sitting on it to serve it. Not that the base is serving the muktzeh. And therefore, it does not make the lid muktzeh, because it's not, the lid is not batel to it. If anything, on the contrary, it is batel to the lid, and therefore it would be mutar to shake it off. The lid would be still mutar to be carried, and that's how you're going to do it. You're going to shake them off, and